Learning art takes years, and we each come to it with different lives, constraints, and responsibilities. When we are learning art online, we cannot always change our situation, but we can make the most of the time and energy we have. That is why following a structured learning path is so important. It allows you to focus your limited time and energy into meaningful progress. Welcome back, my name is Julie. I am here as a new Masters Academy student ambassador of craft, and in this video I am going to share with you 3 practices that I wish I started earlier in my art journey. These are ways to take more out of your art education, and if you want help to implement them, I have put together a free set of resources that you can download in the description under this video. The first one is to learn with intention. In the previous episode, I talked about the power of intention and why it is so important to keep a positive relationship with the learning process. With self-directed study, you have to be active, and knowing why you are pursuing art is especially important. But it is not just a way to get to work and do what it takes to learn the craft. Knowing why you are doing this is also what is going to give context, meaning, and weight to every lesson, every assignment that you take. Having a strong why is going to allow you to study more effectively. That doesn't mean that you have to have your entire art career mapped out. In fact, it is probably going to change. But in order to take the most out of your art education, it is important that you have an idea of why you are pursuing art, what you want to achieve with your art, how you want your art practice to make you feel, and how learning the craft is going to help you get there. And even if your intention isn't perfectly clear or concrete, it is important to have something to come back to. It took me more than a year to complete the Drawing Foundations module, and sometimes I needed very long breaks, but even when I had moments when I was really tired, I had this conviction that following these classes was the shortest way for me to become the artist I wanted to be. And having this conviction is what helps me go through these difficult moments, get back to work, and finish these classes that were more difficult. Having a strong intention isn't just good as a motivation, it is also what is going to allow you to learn better. Because when you can relate a module, a class, or a lesson to your specific art goals, it is going to allow you to retain information a lot better. There might be specific classes or lessons that you don't feel relate directly to your goals, but in the Drawing Foundations module, everything you learn is applicable to different subjects and is going to help you no matter what you want to do. And you won't make progress by skipping the work. One thing that I wish I didn't skip, and this is going to be my next point, is to take strategic notes. Taking notes intentionally is a practice that I only started recently, and it's allowed me to learn so much more that I really wish I had started this from the very first lesson I took. Just like anything, note-taking can be active or passive. So you can think about note-taking like a way to transcript everything you're listening. These are the kind of notes you would take maybe for a lecture, for a theoretical class that you're taking. But the thing is, art is not a theory. It is a craft, it is a practice. And for this reason, I think you want to take active notes in a different way. And I have a few tips for that. The first one is to connect your notes to your artistic purpose. So before you take a class, before you watch a lesson, try to think about how it relates to your artistic goals, how the skills that you're going to learn in this video are going to be useful to you. And this is going to change the way you listen to the instructor and how much intention you memorize and what you write down. You should think of yourself not as a student, but as a professional artist with a goal, who is going to gather information that they are going to use directly in their work. That shift helps you take notes intentionally, focusing on what you will actually use and not just what's being said. Another thing that you can do is to use the assignment PDF related to the lesson as your guide. So the assignment PDF is great because it is an exercise that is designed to specifically make you practice and check that you understood the specific skills that this lesson is supposed to teach you. So before you even start watching the lesson, I recommend that you download the assignment PDF, read it, and take a moment to imagine how you would tackle this task, where you would potentially struggle. And this is going to give a lot more value to the demonstration and all of the information the instructor is going to share during the video. Then, during the lesson, you can take very strategic notes that are going to help you when you have to do the assignment. For example, the information that you're going to need, the mistakes to avoid, the exact step-by-step process of the instructor when they are doing the demonstration, and also take a note of every point that you don't fully understand that needs clarification or that you want to revisit in the future. And what I like to do for this is that I always write the exact name of the video before any note, and then you can write a timestamp. This way you're going to be able to find the moment that you need to watch again very easily. And these are notes that you're going to be able to refer to while you're doing the assignment instead of having to rewatch the entire lesson. And my last tip is better applied after the lesson. That is to write notes as if you were teaching your future self. So you want to assume that you're going to forget everything. That isn't far from reality. We forget most things. So assume you forgot everything about this lesson and try to explain things in your own words, in a more concise manner. This is probably the most important thing that you can do with your notes, and something that I encourage you to do after every lesson and after every class, because this concise text is what you're the most likely to revisit in the future. I have put together note-taking templates for courses and lessons, and if you want some guidance and prompts on how to take notes during video lessons at New Masters Academy, definitely check out the free resources under the video. My next one is to build good study habits. It takes years of consistent effort to become an artist, and having good study habits from the start is going to make it a lot easier to show up every day. No one can stay motivated for a long time, I can't, and when motivation fades, it is the habits that allow us to stay on track with what matters. The first habit I want to share with you is prioritizing quality over quantity. We talk a lot about mileage in art, but learning is not about just filling as many pages of paper as you can. You can learn more from one drawing where you were fully present than from an entire sketchbook full of pages that you filled with the only purpose of finishing it as fast as possible. Another one that I want to touch on before planning is to learn to understand your energy patterns. For me, this comes before planning because if you plan without this, you're just going to be unrealistic and frustrated and feel guilty, and this is not going to take you anywhere. So instead, you want to understand how your energy fluctuates during the day, the week, depending on your sleep, your activities, your work. And to do that, you want to take notes at different moments of the day of how you're feeling, what you just did before, what you're going to do after, and do this for at least 2 to 3 weeks in order to try to identify some patterns like, okay, I am not very effective in the morning or in the afternoon or after I ate this or that, or I am not able to focus after work, but I can do this kind of tasks. And this relates to prioritizing quality over quantity because you want to make the most of your time, but not every moment is going to have the same ideal task and the same importance. You want to reserve the moments where you have the most energy for your most intensive creative tasks, like a difficult assignment, a drawing where you have to really focus. Because you want to make sure that you take advantage of these high energy moments for your most important creative work, and you don't attempt focus intensive tasks when you're mentally depleted. Another good habit is to eliminate friction from the start and anytime you notice it. It is something I talked about in the previous episode, and I believe one of the most important habits that you can put in place. So eliminating friction just means making it as easy as possible for you to do the things that you want to do. So for me, that looks like knowing exactly what I am going to do when I sit down at the drawing table, knowing exactly what lesson I am going to watch, where my materials are, having everything easily accessible, a clean drawing table, a clean desk. So I like to clean up my working space at the end of a session rather than before I start. And one extra thing that you can do is after you clean up your desk, set it up for your next drawing session. This way, you already have everything you need and you just have to sit, and this is going to eliminate as much friction as you possibly can. We all have different needs when it comes to setup and organization, and for me, structure is not about being rigid, it is about freeing up headspace. When everything is set up and clear, I can focus entirely on the art. And the last habit that I want to share with you is planning. In order to show up every week, I like to plan ahead, but one thing about planning is that you have to do it realistically. If you plan as a way to design this ideal schedule for a completely unrealistic version of yourself, it is easy to get into a cycle of perceived failure and guilt and not really plan in a useful manner. Instead, planning should be a tool. It is a way for you to visualize exactly the time that you have and to work with it. What you want is to develop the skill of learning how much time a task is going to take you, what kind of time you need, and how much rest you need in order to perform your best. For any recurring tasks, I encourage you to use automatic reminders. So instead of having to think about something every week, every month, when you know it is going to come back, if you're not doing this yet, try to use an app. And the most important thing is to get into the habit of using the app itself. So if you've never used any kind of planner, it is going to be a skill and a habit in itself. So to get started, have a habit like checking my planner. You also want to group similar activities together in order to reduce context switching. This is when you are doing a type of activity like cooking, and then you switch to something completely different like your work. Your brain has to make some effort in order to go from one type of task to another one, and even if it doesn't feel like much, it can add up during the day and make you more tired at the end of the day and less performant in everything that you do. So instead, what you want to do is try to group similar activities and tasks as much as possible. Of course, you want to limit distractions like social media, emails, any kind of notifications that you get. If you're not doing this yet, I encourage you to remove all notifications from your smartphone except the most important ones. And I encourage you to use some kind of app blocker because these apps, they are designed to take your attention, and it is not reasonable to expect to be able to resist just from your own will. And the last planning thing that applies pretty much to everyone is that you want to try to prioritize long, focused sessions rather than very short ones as much as possible. It is great to be able to take advantage of every block of 5 minutes that you have during your day, but you also need sometimes to go deeper into a task, and you can't just go from one task to a completely different one and be completely focused in less than 5 minutes. So try to also have some longer art sessions. And when you planned something and you didn't stick to it, don't see this as a failure. Planning is just a tool for you to achieve your goals. It is not a goal in itself. You're not going to gain anything for having sticked perfectly to your plan. What you want to do is to take this as a learning opportunity. Maybe it was just life that happened and you can think about how to leave more room in your planning the next time you do it for this kind of unpredictable moments. Maybe you got distracted and you can think about a way to avoid this specific kind of distraction. Whatever happened, what you want to do is not beat yourself up or feel guilty, because this is never going to be helpful. Instead, understand what happened, how you can prevent it, and plan just a little better the next time. And this relates to my most important message, that is, never let shame, guilt, or any negative emotion get in the way of you working on your skills. This is not helpful, this is not productive. This comes from a place of wanting to be better that I definitely relate with, but letting these feelings get in the way of you working on your skills is exactly the opposite of what you want. It is completely normal to have doubts, motivation dips, and moments when you feel like you're not making any progress. I don't think, unfortunately, that this ever goes away, but with experience, we learn to recognize these patterns and we know that they always pass. The next episode will be all about keeping momentum through these difficult moments. Thank you so much for watching this one. Keep learning, and I will see you there.